All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Personnel Committee meeting. There is no public comment. First up, item for discussion is the current district HR dashboard. I'd like to welcome Dr. Andrew Doster to the team, and he will give us
Good evening, everyone. I didn't know this would be up here on the screen, actually. First, before I get into going over anything with our HR dashboard, I just wanted to take a minute to say, first of all, what a great transition this has been into this district. I spent the last 2 weeks doing overlap with Mrs. Mossman, and she really did a great job in terms of teeing things up for me to transition smoothly into this role. I also want to comment and mention just how welcoming the environment has been, how good the administration, the teachers, the people I've had an opportunity to interact with, which I've got to find time to get out and be out and about a little bit more as I get my feet settled here. But it really has been a very positive experience, and hats off to the board and your welcoming of me and the conversations we've had, as well as the administration and the support that they provided so far, and trying to hit the ground running mid-year. So thank you very much to everybody involved. It really has been just a really good, positive experience. All right, as far as our HR dashboard, are there any questions in terms of the data that's presented there before I get into any potential future changes? I know we have
Andy, Chester has to change the slide. Chester, I think it's just an extended screen. You just duplicate it.
All right, we're back. So our HR dashboard, as you can see, this will represent the positions reflected from November 18th through February 2nd. Our total positions posted, as well as positions that have been filled. One of the discussions which will have to be finalized will be what are we going to do in terms of our EDRs and our coaching positions, whether or not we feel that should be pulled out in a separate report due to the number of positions and the fact that they are seasonal and kind of doesn't reflect on the data accurately. So we've had a conversation about pulling that information out, as well as providing a separate report to the committee and the board for our ESY positions. We have begun posting our positions for ESY, but at this point, until that program is finalized and we know what all the needs are, there's no way to accurately forecast right now how many teaching positions, how many paraeducator, teaching assistant positions we will have. So that's just something to consider for future meetings, pulling those statistics and that data out to be represented separately.
And just to clarify, the year-to-date, 149, and the year-to-date 238 is July 1st through current,
All right,
right?
through February 2nd.
Yep, and Dr. Dosser, I asked one thing here. I'd like to clarify, nut services, can we maybe put nutritional services down?
Nutritional services, yes, I can have that written out. I adopted, I
Campus.
happily adopted the form, but we can certainly change
I'd like to see that upgrade.
to nutritional services. Let me make a note here.
Many interpretations of
I think we should keep them guessing.
That is a great suggestion, Dr. Barrios. Our resignations and retirements to date. So 63 resignations, 22 retirements, and I know there was a conversation as well. Mr. Trauger, you had mentioned looking into, in terms of retention and what we could potentially do to try and stem the tide as far as resignations go, and looking at maybe gathering some more information, some data from people during exit interviews to really dive into what it is that are the reasons that they are leaving and going somewhere else. And then we have our year-to-date for our leaves of absence and our benefits. Currently, around, you can see for each level of coverage there, you're looking at 822, 827, 838. And we have 1,048 eligible employees for benefits. We've had a few, we just had an onboarding day last week. I believe there were 6 new people brought on board last week, so we're continuing with the onboarding process on a monthly basis. And then from our transportation department, we are still in need of drivers. We are in need of drivers CDL, non-CDL, preferably CDL though. And I believe that number right now is somewhere around, I want to say we're about 10 drivers short, I think. And you can see that we do have some people there in training status at this time. So any questions about the HR dashboard?
No? All right.
Ask my assistant to pull up the next.
So next, we'll move on to the job descriptions, correct?
Job descriptions will be next.
And again, these are reviewed when someone resigns, when we are hiring somebody for that position, correct?
Correct.
Are they also on like a cycled review plan? I know we talked about this and I don't remember that. Meaning like whether we've looked at it or not because of a resignation, every 5 years, we're at least looking at a job description?
I believe there is a job description review cycle here. I don't know what that is at this point.
Okay.
I just know that these are job descriptions that have come up based off of someone leaving or positions being moved. All right, there were 11 job descriptions that are on tonight's agenda. That information was sent and available. Are there any questions regarding any of the job descriptions before I highlight just a couple things?
You and I spoke about the one question that I did have earlier today, so thank you.
Yes, that was an excellent catch. So the question this morning was around our lifeguard job description, and the very first qualification was a minimum of a high school diploma, and we realized that that is not what we currently need, as we have students that are interested in lifeguarding. So we removed that this morning as a part of that job description. Any other questions?
You remove the post altogether or just the,
Just the line that said minimum was a high school diploma as a qualification.
thank you.
You're welcome. This is one, if you haven't had a chance to look at all the job descriptions, this is one I think you should go back in and take a look at. I know that Dr. Bloom had put a lot of work into creating this job description, moving from instructional support specialist to MTSS specialist, and they are doing some really innovative work in that area in the district moving forward. So this is really a cornerstone piece of how our students will be supported in their, not just their academics, but their behavioral and any supports they need, really K to 12 across the continuum.
Anybody have any questions on these?
No questions.
Good to move this forward. All right.
Any additional questions on any of the job descriptions available? Okay, then coming up, I know Mr. Trauger and I have spoken, we're looking at providing an update for the committee around position control in the very near future, possibly doing that periodically throughout the year, just to give an update on that, as well as we are talking about and beginning another conversation around what we could do to honor retirees at the end of each year moving forward as well. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out at your convenience. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. No public comment. Perhaps this goes on record as the shortest committee meeting. Our next, the next Personnel Committee meeting is scheduled for March 9th. Thank you. What determines the order?
What?
These meetings.
Normally Nancy says so. All right. Let me pull this up here. All right, so we're kicking off for the Facilities Committee meeting. And on the agenda tonight, we're kicking it off with a presentation from ICS. So it should be about the roof project, I believe.
Good evening. Thanks for having us again. John Young from ICS, Ryan Murphy from ICS. Here to talk about the capital planning process and specifically about the results of that Scope 3, the middle school roof bidding, and how that impacts the overall budget. So these are some slides that you've seen several times now, and this is, again, the background, how we arrive at these priorities along with the administration, based out of that facility condition assessment we did previously, kind of reduce and focus our efforts for these summer capital programs, and the priorities, of course, leading off with that warm, safe, dry, because certainly you can't do everything necessarily, and then fitting them into those summer schedules, aligning them with other initiatives of the district, a budget max kind of to work around, and offering these projects as standalone projects such they be approved by the district at your whim, dependent upon the results. Again, this is that simplified graphic that you see on the right side here that gives an assessment of the life expectancies of some of these different systems inside the buildings. Should be pretty familiar with this at this point. And then the ones that are circled or highlighted in the light blue color there indicate where these scope items on the left side lie. So hitting areas of need throughout the district at a lot of different places, in concert with Craig and the administration, working through those. The last one that we're here to talk about, of course, is the roofing at Central Middle School, and I'm going to bring Ryan up to talk about those results.
So just to give everyone an update, I know last meeting we talked about work scopes 1, 2, and 4. Those were approved earlier this month by the board. We're currently working on getting contracts out to each of those contractors, started on submittals so we can make sure we have all that equipment ready come summer when we hit the ground running. So on the work scope 3, so what I'm showing on my screen right now, we received 4 bids back from 4 separate contractors, all qualified to perform this work. Now, this scope was broken into a base bid and 5 alternates. And the reason we do that is so we can evaluate all of the options you guys have for replacing your roof system. So to give everyone a quick snapshot on what that is, the base bid, what we're calling, is the full, we're ripping off the roof and then replacing the full roof. So that's everything drains, edging, the whole roof comes off, we replace it with a brand new roof. Alternate 1 is we are essentially building a new roof on top of your existing roof. We're ripping out, replacing all of the areas that were damaged due to water infiltration, and then building a new roof on top of that. Alternates number 2 and 3 are very similar. They are a coating that you can put on top of your existing roof, and it's just a coating, and they have different warranty periods. And alternates 4 and 5 are alternates to replace the edging, that's the side of the roofing, the metal sides of the roof, and the roof drain. So those would get incorporated within some of those other scopes that I just mentioned. So again, we got all of those numbers from 4 qualified bidders here. You'll see some numbers highlighted here. These were the low bids from each respective work scope. And on this next, slide here, I'm going to talk to kind of our 2 best options here and what they mean for you. So that first one, as we mentioned, this is the base bid full roof replacement. It's had a total value from the low bidder, who was US Roofing, at $2,605,000. Again, this one's fairly straightforward. We're completely replacing the roof, taking out the old, putting in brand new roof. The option number 2, this would be alternates 3, 4, and 5 together. So reminding everyone what that is, alternate 3 is a 30-year warranty coating. So that's when you put a coating on your existing roof. You would also want to take with that alternates 4 and 5, which is the completely doing the roof drains and metal edging. And then that number came in with those three kind of packages. Munn Roofing was the low bidder for those three in total, and that was $2,154,000. Now, it is our recommendation after talking with the, your district here, that the new roof would be the better solution. And the reason for this is with the new roof, you are doubling your insulation value. That's an R value. So essentially, it'll help keep kind of warm air in the winter, cold air in the spring and summer months. So it helps your building systems with keeping that building warm, reducing energy usage. It also, in terms of warranty, everything is covered. Everything's new. Everything's included within the warranty. If there are any issues, you know without a doubt it's covered. Whereas with the alternate, that warranty covers the coating itself. So it would cover the coating, the sides, and the drain. But if there were, for whatever reason, an issue with the roof underneath that coating that caused the failure, that would not be covered. Now, it should be noted that that base bid number, the $2,605,000, is under the budget that we had for this project. And you can see that a little better on this next slide where we look at the capital projects as a whole. So again, highlighting that the low bid number came in under that specific line item number. But to look at the whole capital projects as a whole, our total initial budget was $5,596,000. If we elect to use the base bid number for the roofing scope, all of that work scopes 1, 2, 3, and 4 total to $5,354,000. So we are approximately $250,000 below our anticipated budget at the start of this. So again, just highlighting kind of that milestone schedules. So what's to come? We're talking about the scope 3 meetings right now. I kind of mentioned we're already in the process of getting work scopes 1, 2, and 4 contracts out there so we can start on that equipment ordering. On this, I believe it's the school board later this month. If you guys elect to move it forward, that'll be where the vote is. And then we'll be obviously sending that contract out to that roofing scope. We'll start most of this work after the school year ends. We'll hit the ground running, and then we'll have kind of that work in place, substantial completion around the end of August before the school year comes. So that is all I had for you guys today. Open it up if there are any questions related to the work scopes or anything else on the capital projects.
So, and the type of roof that's going on, what type of roof?
So it's a hot fluid applied membrane, so you'll have the 2 layers of insulation. You'll have kind of what's called a ply, so it's kind of a roofing layer. You put like a hot bitumen, I hate that word. but-
I hate it too, so.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a hot applied roof on top of that.
And what system, or whose system is it?
Oh, it is Ganter, yeah. No, sorry, Garland.
Garland.
Yeah, those
Right.
names. Yes, it is a Garland. So we did give all roofing vendors the options between 2 manufacturers, of Garland and Tremco. All 4 bidders came back and they had Garland as the lower bidder, so that is what we.
Yeah, that's good. The tech school just did a Garland roof. They were good to work with up there, and I've done a lot of work with one of their field reps. What is Casey?
Zach.
I mean, Zach, sorry. Whatever his role is, and he's been really responsive, and I think it makes more sense, just my interactions with Zach over the past to do it edge to edge and take the whole thing out, redo the roof. There's no possibility of faults that we're going to find later on, because I think that the patch and repair, as great as it is that they offer a 30-year warranty to it, it's, if you get a crack in it, I mean, it is impossible to find at that point, because it's just tracking underneath that application. So I think it's a good move, a smart move to do the whole roof like that. That's not for me to decide.
I'm assuming there's like equipment up on the roof, like compressors or, so who's responsible for taking them off and putting them back on? Would that all be
Yes,
part of the?
the roofing contractor.
Okay.
So what we did for each of these 4 bidders is we had what we call a de-scope meeting. What that is we sit down with each of them individually. We run through a list of questions to make sure that everyone has all the scope that everyone else has. We're not recommending a low bidder, but they don't have something that someone else has. And then if someone doesn't include it, we ask them to add it so that it can truly be a level playing field. One of those questions was all costs associated with moving or adjusting any mechanical equipment as required for the roofing work.
What's the warranty for option 1 for the full roof?
25-year warranty.
So 25 years versus 30 years if we do option number 2. And then my next question would be, right, we're looking at $500,000 difference. One thing you had stated was with the full roof replacement, we're getting a double value out of insulation. Will we see a $500,000 return? If we said, sure, let's do option 1, are we going to see a $500,000 offset in the costs of heating and cooling these systems over the lifespan of, I guess, 25, 30 years?
So I would say in the 25 years, you're probably not going to see an equal return in terms of value, but again, I know you had mentioned it earlier, a lot of that value comes in the fact that if you get a leak in the system, there's a sole point of contact.
Right,
where
understood.
With the coating, you do run the risk of having them thinking it's the roof underneath that's causing the leak, and thus it wouldn't be covered in that warranty.
And that's the hard part about the surface application above or building up is that on face value, it's great. It looks like it's less money, but when you really get into everything underneath, I mean, you could be ripping whole chunks.
I understand that.
So-
I understand, but it's a $500,000 difference, right? And we're in a position where I think we have to consider a $500,000.
But let's take it and just think about it for 1 second. You get water in underneath the substrate, and it lays into the pan decking, and it
I understand
rusts
all
the
of
pan
that.
decking. You're talking way more than $500,000 to do that
I
restoration.
understand all of that.
Not to mention
So a higher
the fact
chance
of
of
classroom
having to do more
destruction.
work.
Yeah.
Is there active leaks now?
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Is there any damage?
And you guys have pulled core samples, I would imagine,
Leaks
for.
that you can tell?
Do you, in terms of?
It would manifest on the ceiling tiles, so, I mean, we do see quite a few ceiling tiles that get moisture on them, so we have to go through and try to track and see if we can find it. And our general mechanic that does go up on the roof and chase these issues has been quite successful finding things, but you're kind of just going around trying to search and constantly chase it and plug things up. And Zach, who we mentioned from Garland, has been very helpful, but when the volume of them that do manifest, it gets to the point where we're looking into, we just need to get back down to ground zero and replace. And the fact that doing a full replace would take care of everything as far as not only the roof, but the trim and the drain boots, it will solve all of that.
Any existing damage from the current leaks is also repaired?
It would be taken care of in the process.
So with the 30-year roof, if there is a problem with the roof underneath it and we have to pull it up, does that do anything to the warranty? Were they like, ripped it up and?
That would void the warranty, so if there's damage to the roof underneath where that coating is, and it
Yeah.
would damage that coating, then it would void that warranty.
But they're standing behind this product for 30 years, that it's going to seal. And I get that things happen.
Having actual experience and dealing with this on a daily basis, I can tell you it's not worth screwing around with the 500,000, because you put moisture into the air and you put darkness into the air, and suddenly you're saying the M word, and now you're clearing at the school. You're doing
I've dealt with these
remediation.
things as well. And
But I do it in public education with 8 buildings, so, and I've got leaks in buildings all over the place.
well, mine's not in public education, but it's still huge buildings that I've had to replace roofs, that I've had to do patch jobs and make these decisions. And I think it's a $500,000 decision that we need to
Well, then when
carefully
parents
review.
complain because they're having respiratory issues for your kids, you can answer the emails.
Have you done where you've done this, where it's like the whole roof ceiling like that?
Mhm.
And what's been your experience with it?
Yeah, that was,
It held up?
yeah.
Anybody else? Any other questions?
If we do the full replacement, it's a 25-year warranty. If we do this ceiling, it's a 30-year warranty. At the end of the 30 years, what's the likelihood we're going to have to do something again to treat this roof?
You would need to do the full rip up in 30 years. There's a requirement for how many roofs you can build on top of an existing roof, so this would be the third.
So if we did a full replacement, that would not be the case?
That would not be the case.
Thank you.
Can I say that again? So if we did the full replacement after 25 years,
You
does it
would,
mean we'd have to completely replace the roof?
you would be able to do, like, you would have the options to do either build a new roof on top of that one,
Alright.
do a coating, whereas
Okay, I see what
coating, it would be your third roof stack. I believe it started in 1997, and you had another one in 2015. Is that
2015.
correct?
So option 2 is giving us that third roof stack.
Option 2 is giving you that third roof.
Okay.
It's the third roof on top.
So in 2015, we resurfaced?
I believe so, yeah.
Mhm.
Is that what option 2 is, a resurface?
It is, yeah. It's a different product. I can't speak to the product used in 2015. I will say that the product, we asked each of our bidders about the product in option 2. They had said they found success with it, but the oldest one they had was 5 years. So the oldest application they had done with this roof system is 5 years. They hadn't had any issues with it or heard of any issues with those buildings. But again, it is a newer product, so it's different from your 2015 coating. But with that, it hasn't had in their applications, they haven't had the life cycle of truly.
Is the 2015 application a Garland application?
I believe it was a Garland application.
So, we got 10 years. So,
And
and I
that's
guess,
not under warranty anymore, the 2015 one?
It is, but even our representative from Garland is not encouraging the resurface. He's even come to me multiple times and encouraged we should be considering replacing. Just because of the fact that we're seeing as many leaks as we're seeing over there, that he is even endorsing a replacement.
What was the warranty on?
It's, the warranty's on the roof itself.
No, but how long is that? How long?
That I don't know how long.
I mean, it's probably still good, because it's only 10 years, it's probably. So, I don't know enough about roofs at all, then, but, like, what would be the things underneath that what's an example of something where he's like, this is why you're better off ripping it up and replacing?
So he's endorsing the replacement because the areas around the drains on the roof is where we're seeing most of the issues. And resurfacing, he doesn't believe is going to take care of those issues. He thinks that we'll go and we'll resurface, but we'll still see the leaks because of the areas around the drains. He thinks that it won't take care of that specific problem.
So if we replace the roof, they would be taking those drains out, like putting new drains?
It would be new
rebuilding
drains
the
and
whole thing?
basically rebuilding the roof and starting from scratch.
Okay.
Therefore, it'll take care of the existing issues that we're seeing, and we won't have the leak issues that we're currently seeing. So basically starting over, and then like Ryan highlighted, we will be starting back down at ground zero, and resurfacing is an option moving forward. If we do resurfacing this time, the next time we have to do roof work, we have to do a full replacement. So it's either we do it now and start fresh, or we resurface, run the risk of not handling everything, and be relying on a warranty, and then just have to bite the bullet later.
So in reality, we probably in 10 years would have to,
We could be talking about spending this amount of money
like, don't.
Plus whatever the cost goes
recently
up.
down the road. I mean, not too far down the
Yeah.
road.
Well, and I think that even the top layer, the resurfacing is, even if it's a 30-year warranty, that's not warranting the substrate, which is the under,
It's just a sealant.
yeah, it's just a sealant. So, and that's where I think you have a breakdown underneath, and you're just running the risk of,
I also think if we open the door for the finger pointing game where, oh, it's not us, it's that. And I've seen that in other areas where you kind of get into, oh, it's not us, it's them, it's not us, it's that. And then you get into having to try to get multiple people here and it can be a problem. And then during all of that, it's a lot of downtime and opens the door for other problems that could happen too.
I'll be less PC than Mr. Bramble. The roofing companies are notorious for being like, it's your rooftop unit that's leaking. And they'll point the finger to somebody else, and suddenly this leak has continued on, and you're just continuing to damage underneath and the decking, because they're looking out for their own interests, and it's the rooftop unit, it's whatever it is, nobody wants to take that liability.
And you said it's just the sealant, so, I mean, you were talking about drains, what other things are up there that aren't the sealant on a roof?
Well, and just
There's-
real quick, and if you do that top layer, I mean, just doing the top layer, you're ripping out everything in a building to drain, building it
Right.
to the drains on the roof, and you're roughly estimated about $5,000 per drain. So if you don't get a good seal, and that's where you're getting all the leaks at, I mean, it's going into that area, and you're talking $5,000 every time one of those fails to replace it.
And there's more than just drains up there, too. Like, there's a lot more than just the sealant up there, so there's drains and what other, like.
Well, you
I'm
got
assuming,
the
like-
boots for the rooftop units.
So does each of those alternates then have a different warranty?
What's that? I'm sorry.
Does each of the, so right, for option number 2, it includes 3 different alternates, right? 3, 4, and 5. We're talking about roof drains being the primary source of leaks right now.
Oh, you're right.
Alternate 5 is replacing the existing roof drains and
Yeah.
piping, as shown on the construction documents. So what would the warranty be on that? Is that 30 years as well?
So the warranty for the drains, typically the warranty for the drains themselves or for the material themselves, it's the coating that would be the actual water infiltration connect. So if like the drain corrodes or something like that, that would, I want to say it's like 20-something years, but that would be what's covered in that roof drain warranty
Which would be the same
with the edge. Yeah,
with going with a full replace anyway.
Hmm?
Which would be the same warranty on those drains for the full replace then.
True, you would just have the new flashing
Yeah.
from the substrate to the drains. It wouldn't just be that top coating.
Either way, we're redoing seals around those
drains.
drains, right? It's,
So, again, by no roofing experience, so there's the drain and the sealant, I've got those two. Then you're talking, there's flashing underneath there then too, or?
So when I say flashing, there's a bottom layer of the roof. You'll then have insulation on top of that. You'll then have a layer on top of that, which would go to the drain.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about now is either do we take out, obviously you guys have another roof on top of that, but I'm avoiding that for this discussion. You would take out, an option of the base bid, you would take out everything, replace the drain, new drain, completely new everything butting to it, including that bottom layer, and then with the whole new roof to the top. The second one would be we keep what was in there. You would cut a little around it, take out the drain, put in a new drain, and then flash the new membrane on top. And that would be your only source of or penetration there is to that top point. So if there were water trapped underneath, whether it was before, like, so water got in before we did this, there's potential for that to move if water gets in, like by the roof hatches, for example. That would be, like, there are areas that have existing flashing to it that we don't just have the coating.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Thank you.
So basically, the warranty would handle what would be getting put down, but it's not gonna cover what's underneath of it, and then that's where the uncertainty starts to get into the equation.
Yeah, because you're cutting that piece around it, like you're not bringing the roof to it versus that one piece. And is there any, so the warranty on the US, was it US roof?
US roof,
That's 25-year?
25.
Is that a purchased extended, or is that just base?
That's the base, that's the garland.
And you were saying a lot of active leaks currently are around some of those drains.
Yes.
That does make me nervous.
I'm sorry.
It makes me nervous to not open it up more, like, than just the drain. I feel like
I'd like to
there's a good
see,
chance there's
I'd like to see
problems.
total replacement. That's why, that's what we're trying to encourage here,
Right.
is total replacement, start over, and then moving forward from there, the likelihood of resurfacing being an option is much more viable when you're talking about resurfacing level one, because you're starting over from scratch. But when we're going, when you're gonna consider putting a third layer on top of it, I think we're just opening the door to,
Or patchwork.
we're opening the door for issues at this point if we don't consider doing a full replacement at this point.
And this is the original roof, for all intents and purposes, right?
No, it's
No.
the third.
No, but it's
Well,
like.
this is the second
under-
that's on.
The
Right,
surface
but
is,
the underneath
is the original.
one, like,
right?
we've never replaced the entire roof before. We've just.
Yeah, so we would, if we did
Added.
resurface, we would be resurfacing
Right.
on top of an existing resurface.
Yeah, we haven't pulled it apart
What's
yet.
there?
The age of the
Original
roof.
roof underneath, then a resurface on top of that. That's what she asked.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
So there's
we've never pulled it apart.
We've never,
Mhm. Yeah,
And
we've,
replaced
we
the
haven't,
entire
yeah, we
thing.
haven't replaced the entire.
Yeah,
thing.
okay.
just having buildings that have that patchwork, like cutting out sections and stuff, it's just, I
How old is that building?
couldn't recommend.
1997, I think it's when the roof was installed. Right?
Yeah, I think, yeah, the roof was installed in 97, and then it was and then the last resurface was 2015.
30 years old. Yeah. I feel like the odds are not in our favor to keep.
Well, I mean, it's really just
30 years makes me nervous.
moving it forward as either option A or option, or base bid or alternates. Hearing from the end of the table of committee members.
I want to say yes to the full, but I have concerns about painting ourselves into a corner until we have a better idea on the other expenses we're looking at coming up. We have to juggle those as well.
One thing I think I just need to, we all need to be cognizant of is any delay in this is
Understood?
going to push us out, that we might not have this done by summer. I don't know what's the procurement? I mean, do they feel like they have any issues with getting anything? or-
Speaking to everyone, I know a few years ago, it was roof insulation was the big hangup.
Yeah, it was.
We've seen that kind of come down a lot as we've gotten further away from kind of those COVID kind of conditions, I'll call them. So it's fairly readily available, I'll call it. I mean, there's still probably a 4 to 5 week lead time on roofing insulation, but it's not
It's not
the months that it used to be.
Yeah.
I will say that there are funds set aside in the capital projects fund for these projects that are, that you've looked at this winter for this coming summer. The money is there and it isn't like, it is not in the general fund.
I mean,
it's
it's-
capital projects.
It came in 200,000 less than what our budgeted for this year was, correct? That was where we were at.
It was about $250,000 cheaper than what our original budget was for this, all of these 4 scopes.
I mean, I think coming in, that money in underneath and just the necessity to replace the whole thing, I think is where I would say, let's just move it forward to the board. We can hash it out at the board, and if it's, we get to the whole board and the will is to come back to committee, I think it's better for us to try to get it done there. But if we have to come back, at least we can have had that discussion. So, I mean, if Mr. LaFever and Mr. McMullen are okay with it, I'll move the base bid forward to
Yep,
the meeting.
yep. I'm on board with that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. On to number 3, the resolution in support of applying for a public school facility improvement grant.
So another little project that we're working on with John and his team at ICS is the Public School Facilities Improvement Grant. John has ICS has a company called JGS that they work with that helps the ICS customers write grants and submit grants for these state grants and other grants. So Craig and I, Dr. Palmer, have been meeting with these folks for about a month and working on developing a grant to submit by the middle of March to the state of Pennsylvania for this public school facility improvement grant money. And we worked with ICS and the grant writers to pick a project that they felt was really, I guess, in the sweet spot of what is funded by this particular grant funding. So the project that was picked was the boiler to replace the boiler system at Central Middle School. The grant which we're requesting is $987,918. There is a 25% cash match from the school district, which would mean the district would pay about $250,000, just short of $250,000, and those funds would come from our capital projects funds. So really, we would be looking at getting a new boiler system replacement at Central Middle School, with the vast majority of that paid for by this grant from the state. So a couple of things have to happen. We need a resolution passed by the board supporting the district to apply for the grant, and that is this step that's in front of you. So if the board will put that motion into place, then we can finish up with John's team, submit a grant application by the due date in March, and see what happens. And then, hopefully we'll get some funding from the state of Pennsylvania for our boiler system.
Good. Any questions?
This is great, thank you.
All fairly
Finding this,
straightforward.
yeah.
Well, thank you to ICS because they've actually provided grant writing service to us for free. ICS is covering that charge for the grant writers. So it is a benefit to the district of working with ICS, that they're willing to step forward and help their school districts that they work with apply for these grants and make sure that they're written professionally. So we do appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
John brought that forward to us as soon as the state budget got approved and the grants were announced. John brought forward that he could, help us move forward and work on that. So, and we've been doing that. So thank you to our partnership.
Thank you.
Wait, was this in the capital projects already? Okay. So how much will we end up paying?
About just shy of 250,000. We have a 25% match.
Was it this PCCD?
Does this one go through PCCD? John?
DCED,
Got it. So it's 75-25,
Different letters.
Yeah. but it's still 75-25.
75-25, yeah.
Got it.
Those folks from Toll Grant Solutions help us craft the narrative around the need. They help with the spittle and make sure that it's all done correctly. They deal with the agents from the DCED to ensure that it's done properly, and then they actually go and advocate for your grant application. So we're going to probably 9 or 10 districts working through this very similar process. So we're hopeful. They've had a good success rate. There's only $100 million out there, so we'll see how it goes. Maybe 125 million out there. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, but those districts aren't Penridge, so.
Say it one more time?
So those districts aren't Penridge, so.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. They don't have that same team working for them, so we're excited about it.
If we don't get it this year, we'll keep trying, right, John?
Yeah, we expect it to be an ongoing thing, depending upon the passage of the budgets, but it's a key part of it. Certainly important to Governor's Bureau. We know that people have need throughout the state. A number of districts were successful last time, but to be part of that going forward.
Maybe you answered this. Is this boiler replacement in the current capital, like the summer project capital plan
Not for this summer, no.
for next?
Yes, this would be a next summer project. I think it's until, the grants won't even be announced till fall, right? John?
Yeah, I believe that the grant.
I guess my question was, this isn't some-
We're going to give some feedback on the approval process should be quicker this time. Should be sometime summer, fall, right? And then you'll get approval, you'll be able to go through this process. You'll be in front of the game and so forth. But it is a future, it's one of those, items that's highlighted for future needs or future budgets.
I guess my question was, this isn't already in our current capital improvement plan that we're going to see a $750,000 return when it's covered by the grant. That,
No, this isn't, right, this is not,
It is in our future plan.
yeah, no,
Not for
understood,
this-
but not in this current,
Mhm, correct, not this current summer.
thank you.
good with this? Move on? Agreement? Perfect. All right.
Thank you, Joe.
Moving on to number 4, East Rockville Township, a unilateral declaration of covenants, conditions, easements, and restrictions concerning new parking at Penridge High School.
So this is the last part of closing out our land development agreements with East Rockville Township for the parking lot projects on this side of Fifth Street, and also the projects on Craig's side of Fifth Street, the operations building. Those projects are complete, and Craig has went to the township meeting in January, representing the district, as we asked to have those projects officially closed out, and to have our escrow funds released, and our letters of credit released from the bank and so forth. One last step the township is asking us to do is approve this document. And basically, and Mike has reviewed this document, but basically what this document gets at is that there was a piece of the project, of the land development agreement, that the district decided not to do, and it was a third parking lot on the Blooming Glen side of the high school, and it was a third parking lot for student parking. The board decided not to do that project. Moving forward, we added student parking out on this side by the tennis courts. The high school staff felt that the parking that was gained there was adequate. We also added a parking lot at the bus garage, if you remember, to expand and be able to keep all of our buses in the rear instead of having them in the front. So that parking lot was abandoned, and basically this covenant is saying that if we would like to rectify or resurface that project and do it at a later date, we will have to go back through the land development process for that and have that project redesigned, redeveloped, resubmitted to the township, and so forth. We can't just 3 years down the road go out back and start digging and say we're still under that. So that's basically what number 3 in this document talks about, that we are relinquishing the right to come back and do that project under the current land development agreement. So this is the one little final step that the township's asked the board to put in place, so they'll close our project.
Any other questions? Concerns? Perfect. Then moving forward then. And then we have, lastly, obsolete items for review at Bedminster Elementary.
Just have one thing out of Bedminster's nursing office: an exam table is no longer being used. It's in fair condition, and it'll be exploded trash. What we're gonna do with it.
Perfect.
Okay?
All right. I don't think there's any public comments, so the next Facilities Committee meeting is scheduled for March 9th, 2026. And I believe we are moving right along to Finance.
All right, no public comment for finance? No, all right, no public comment, moving right into it. First, all right, we're up. All right, so first item on the agenda, Dr. Holler will be presenting some information to us on the Bucks IU, the 26-27 programs and services, and instructional materials and research services budget. It's a mouthful, sorry.
It's okay. Dr. Holler, you can
Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here, and thank you so much for having me. I'm here to answer any questions, but I will give a short presentation before I do so. First of all, it's always helpful to just remind you how much we value our partnership with Penridge. It's been a longstanding partnership, and we find a lot of value to working together to support the students in Penridge. So just a quick overview of what is an intermediate unit, in case there's any, just to kind of give you that grounding and that information. So the Bucks County Intermediate Unit was established in 1971 by the Pennsylvania General Assembly. There are 29 IUs throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and so we work on making sure that we're providing educational cost-effective, management-efficient programs to both the public and the private schools, school districts, and community of Bucks County. Intermediate units are also charged with implementing federal, state, and local education policies, as well as creating new services as determined by local need. As just one example, I've been with the intermediate unit now for 10 years. When I first started, there really wasn't such a thing as STEAM services. And over time, that's something that we really saw as a need within our county and heard that need, and that's something we created as a result of making sure that we were responsive to the needs throughout the county. Why do we approve the budget every year? This is actually based on Pennsylvania school code, and it requires that a majority of the school districts that comprise our intermediate unit here in Bucks County annually vote to approve the programs and services budget, and that's a subset of the overall IU budget. All the other services that the IU provides are purchased separately, and they are not included in the programs and services budget. And I'll review some of what it entails and kind of set that special education piece in particular aside, because that's something that's approved separately. So to give you some perspective on the Bucks IU budget in relation to the programs and services budget, you can see here that this is 25-26 data because the Bucks IU's budget is still under development for 26-27. You'll be approving the 26-27 programs and services budget, hopefully at your next meeting, but this just gives you like kind of an apples to apples comparison. So in 25-26, the current school year that we're currently in, the Bucks IU budget is $257 million, and the programs and services budget is actually 0.8% of that Bucks IU overall budget. Now, I would argue that we are a very small but mighty group of individuals that are working to support your district, but in terms of the relative scope, you can see that's a very small sliver of the Bucks IU's budget that you're actually approving. It's just the programs and services budget of a little bit this past year was $2,199,000. And we'll take a look at this current year budget. So the total budget for the upcoming 26-27 school year is $2,158,802. And the district contributions make up approximately half of the budget. So when you're, as part of that, you're contributing to that, that's about half of the overall Bucks IU budget. It's an overall increase for that $1,076,534 is actually an increase of about $15,861 in district contributions. Penridge's increase in the budget is $795. So over last year to this year, we're talking $795, just to give you that perspective. So we take that little small blue sliver and we make that the full pie, and we take out a small sliver there that the Penridge's contribution to the overall 26-27 programs and services budget is $82,573, about 3.8% of the programs and services overall budget of $2.15 million.
Can I just interrupt? So the budget for this year was $2,199,000.
Correct.
So it went down, right?
The budget overall did go down.
Okay.
The district contributions went up. Partly that's because the
okay.
state contributions have actually decreased, and the federal contributions as well towards our budget.
Right.
So we work very hard to reduce that impact on the district, just as one example, because as you probably are aware, the majority of the program and services budget, just like your budget in
Yeah.
Penridge, is personnel costs, and those personnel costs do go up every year because we're, keeping track and making sure people want to continue to work for the Bucks IU. And so as a result of that, what I was able to do this year to really offset that, to make that increase so minimal, is because we've been trying to do entrepreneurial efforts to keep that increase very reduced, we actually are pulling out a little bit of a salary and putting it into the Fab Lab budget. The Fab Lab is a standalone, not part of the actual program and services budget, and we were able to deflect a little bit there to minimize the impact overall.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Sure. So just in pictures, just a summary there. You have the overall Bucks IU budget. That small sliver is the program and services budget. We take that sliver, we make that the full pie, and I kind of show that sliver of what the Penridge contribution is towards the program and services budget. So major categories of support. I know that you have the full budget attachment to look at, and that is comprehensive. We take a lot of time just to, in case you have questions, so you know all the different pieces of the program and services budget with what you're getting on an annual basis. So I won't go through every single one of those this evening, because I know you, with respect to time, but if you have any questions in particular, I'll give some highlights of a couple of things that we really wanted to emphasize here that we've been doing in Penridge. But all of these are things that you have access to, and every year over year, we might do more in one category, less in another, but I would say that this year, you're making a really full advantage of a lot of the program and services offerings, and I see some smiles in the room here. So we have been spending a lot of time right now on a couple different projects that I'll highlight, but just as just one example, we offer advisory councils to all of the districts in Bucks County, and your individuals attend those advisory councils and have the benefit of coming together, hearing from like-minded and job-alike individuals, and then take that knowledge back to the district. And I think that's really valuable. We also tend to be a conduit of information for changes that are coming from the Pennsylvania Department of Education. Some of the things that we've really been focused on over the past few years are the fact that the STEELS standards, this is the first year of full implementation, and we've been supporting your district and all the districts in Bucks County to be prepared to implement those standards. So just as another example. For highlights for the current school year, just so you kind of get a sense of what's happening in the district, you continue to participate with the Leadership Development Fellowship Program, and that's been a very successful endeavor in this district to continue to build your leadership bench of individuals ready for leadership positions. We also have mobile Fab Lab school visits planned this spring, as well as one that we completed already this fall. I was able to actually personally help with the consultative support for the K-12 guidance plan, and a few individuals in this room may have played a role in that as well. So that's something that I had the pleasure of helping facilitate, and you approved that plan, I think back in, I want to say it was December or back in the fall. Full-day kindergarten planning support is something that we've been working on more recently. So we've been in classrooms, observing, providing some support. So some members of my team have been in the process of doing that and working hand in hand with some of your individuals in the district. Instructional coaching, customized district meetings. We've been coming and providing some individualized meetings here in the district to continue to support instructional coaching. And finally, facilitating retreats for the Board of School Directors. So that's just another highlight that I know you've recently enjoyed as a part of our services. Just one highlight that's always a fan favorite is our mobile Fab Lab visit. And so you are typically our very first visit of the year. Seiler Elementary School always gets right there and snatches that up. So we were able to do that back in it feels like ages ago, but on the week of September 15th was our first visit of the year. And so we will have several more to share with you by the end of the school year, but I thought you'd appreciate just seeing a snapshot of one of our visits from our mobile Fab Lab program.
Dr. Holler, if you could maybe speak about the Fab Lab as well.
Sure.
In Warminster, I know we have teachers going there this week for some training, and we have Central Middle School will visit the Fab Lab along with, I believe, West Rock Hill.
West Rock Hill's going as well.
Yes, and we're looking to expand that as well, because what we've
Absolutely.
learned from the student advisory councils, these students want more opportunities in a
So that is
lot
an
of demand.
entrepreneurial effort from our Bucks IU team, and I'd certainly have to give props to actually a parent in your district, Dr. Lindsay Rutherford, and she is the brains behind everything that goes on with our Fab Lab programs at the Fab Lab Center. We opened that center in 2021, and we actually moved a couple of doors down in 2024 at the end of that school year, but we have really been working on expanding our program offerings. We offer after-school opportunities as well as summer programming, and then as Dr. Barrios mentioned, we have students come throughout the school year. We work very hard to work on getting grants to offset as many costs as possible for all the offerings that we provide. And another exciting thing that we just most recently did is we applied for a grant and have a third mobile Fab Lab that's actually kind of goes out from the Fab Lab Center to be able to support districts in the county who want to have more access to STEM opportunities. But we have any kind of programming from drones to Legos, et cetera. There's a lot of different things that go on in that Fab Lab Center on any given week and day. Sure. So timeline-wise, we are in the middle of the kind of approval window. Our Bucks IU board, after receiving preliminary endorsement by the Bucks County Superintendents in December, our Bucks IU board gave preliminary approval on January 20th. From January 21st until February 28th, so the end of this month, we are asking for approval by our school districts. And then the Bucks IU Board of School Directors would give final approval on April 21st at our April meeting. That's the timeline ahead of us for this spring. Any questions that you might have about the budget that I can help answer today?
I'm assuming you got like a line item version of? There you go.
I think you have it.
We have it too.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Do you have any
62
questions?
pages.
Hmm?
Did you have any questions?
I do not. I understand it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Holler.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure when you visit.
That means he likes your budget.
I will say, just as a partner with them, they're just incredible for us. Dr. Holler in particular, we know that they're only a phone call away, and they are really great at helping us connect with other partners. Hey, there's another district that has a similar issue, and this is what they did. And it's just great to have them there as a team.
All right. Mr. Daubert, do you want to go over these contracts?
Let's do some contracts.
Yeah, do that, and then we'll get to the fun stuff.
The first two contracts we have this month are Learn Well contracts for student identified as 2026-17 and 2026-18. These are for educational services of students placed in medical facilities. Cost is $61.55 per hour of the Learn Well contracts. Letter C is Smart Center psychotherapy consultations for student identified as 2026-16. $150 per hour, and that's the same as last year for this particular student's services. Letter D, pediatric therapeutic services. This is an addendum for our ongoing agreement, which was approved in March of 2023. This is for speech and language pathologist for the 25-26 school year. The cost from January through June of 2026 is increasing to $79 per hour from $77.49 per hour. We have two contracts for Empower Ed. The first is professional development services during March of 2026, and the cost for that leadership team planning session is $1,650. And the second contract with Empower Ed is for professional development services for teachers for the 26-27 school year. This will be for 3 sessions at a total of about $13,900.
These are the two contracts that Dr. Bloom presented, right? Okay.
Yes, these were presented at last Monday's curriculum.
G, Museum of the American Revolution. This is for North Middle School's trip in April. Cost is $2,160, and that is parent paid. Letter H is a Pennsylvania Trust for GASB 75 valuation and related services. This will be performed by Conrad Siegel. This contract's for January of 2025 through December of 2028. The cost range is between $800 and $9,700 depending on the year of service and the level of complexity of the valuation. Previous years, ours was $8,075. So this is an annual accounting requirement. GASB 75 requires us to have an actuarial evaluation of our post-employment benefits. I'm looking at Dan back there because he's my CPA. He knows this stuff inside and out. But this is a valuation that we need for the audit, and the valuation is it's required, and it's made part of the annual audit. Moving on, letter I, Bucks Intermediate Unit. This is the Microsoft Services Agreement renewal. First-year term is prorated for 8 months, November through June, at a cost of $50,218. And then from July of 26 through June of 29, estimated cost of $85,000 annually for 3 years. And that cost has increased from $74,000. Letter J is Chester County Intermediate Unit, rubric data backup service, year 1, February 26th through June of 26, $10,000 prorated. Year 2, 26 to 20 through 27 is $20,000. The prior vendor cost. This is one we're changing vendors. The prior vendor cost was over $29,000. So this is a new direction that Mr. Lazoe.
Yeah, Mr. Lazoge brought that forward to us. He thought this was a way to reduce our costs and, make things a little more expedient.
Quick question on this one. It says the school agrees to utilize a minimum of 20 terabytes of data storage. So there's a minimum. I didn't see any reference to a cap or a maximum they're allowed to use.
Great question. I don't know.
Awesome.
We will give you an answer, Mr. McMullen.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Make sure.
Yep.
It's not in there. Maybe we don't know the answer.
Maybe we don't know.
Infinity,
Yeah, right.
all the storage, all the GBs.
Okay. The last contract we have is Teach for Results, professional development for administration in order to empower them as instructional leaders using data-driven analysis for Lincoln. Estimated cost of $34,000 depending on the number of sessions needed. And this is another contract that Dr. Bloom presented during her meeting last week. That's it for contract.
I just have a question, but it's not about a contract. Smart Center is different from Lakeside. Like, we use them differently. How?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Because that's a psychotherapy consultation for us.
Well, I think this is for one specific student,
Okay,
right?
is that the difference?
I remember, that was my
Yeah.
thought, because I had that same thought looking at this earlier today. I thought, well, but then I reread it, and I'm like, oh, I think this is just for one
Okay.
particular
one
student.
But is this something that's probably attached to an IEP or something? Okay,
Need, yeah.
all right.
Mhm.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Student activity accounts, we have one new request for a student activity account. The high school Rock U Club is requesting to open a student activity account. Moving on, we will be, soon we'll be advertising for our bids and RFPs for 26-27 in the following categories: music instruments and equipment, art supplies, technology supplies and equipment, transportation supplies and equipment, and facility supplies and services. So really, anything that we can't jump on the IU's bids, piggyback on their bids, or some other area of piggybacking on bids, we put our own bids out. The next one, number 6, is really informational, for informational purposes. We have 3 policies, policy 610, 611, and 626, that reference the bid thresholds for the state of Pennsylvania. They change each year, the bid thresholds. So there is a threshold which requires us to seek 3 prices. that stuff, that will be $13,200. And there is a bid threshold which requires us to seek public bids, and that threshold is $24,500. So these would be for purchases outside of any governmental backed purchasing program that we may utilize. So this is just to let you know that those thresholds have changed. The policies that are in place pinpoint the change each year. So they change the policy number changes automatically with the state government as they set those thresholds. Any questions on that? Okay. All right, we'll Tom move into general fund budget. Does anybody need a break?
It's up to you.
Do you want to take 5?
Maybe we should. I could use
Well,
5.
I mean, knowing how the budget goes, yeah, I think we should take a break and.
Dave,
All right, we're back at it.
All right, thank you. Chester just gave me a laser, so,
Ooh,
pack your pajamas.
no cats in the room.
All right, so we're gonna do, an overview of, budget process tonight. Just more of an educational session for you, than really a numbers session at this point, where we are in the budget process. Today, we finished our last, meeting with department heads. And we will be, going through all of that information, and making adjustments and so forth. Next week, we will start our staffing meetings, with all the principals, at all the levels, and, work through staffing. Our goal is to come back to you in March, with a first look at, a very thorough budget, and also bring you, alternatives and ideas and, thoughts and, a whole lot of stuff to consider and look at and think about. So a few things I want to go through tonight with you. How did we end up in 24, 25? What's our fund balance? Talk about capital projects funding, which is, where the funds come for the projects that we were talking about tonight with ICS. A little bit about school finance, how things are coded and how things flow and so forth, to give you a little bit of an idea how that works. And then some assumptions and trends for our budget growth, both on the revenue side and the expenditure side. So how did we end up in 24, 25? We are quickly coming to a close for 24, 25, and when I say quickly, we're trying to move as quick as possible to bring 24, 25 to an end, which basically means that there's an auditor here that's giving you an audit report. But that process is sometimes very long, very painstaking to get to that point. We are finishing up that work with the auditor, and hopefully we will soon get to that point. Well, we had a budget of $159.1 million in 24, 25. Actual revenues came in at 158.6, 546,000 less than budget, about a 0.34% variance. Expenditures came in at 161.9 million, over budget by about 2.7 million, about a 1.73% variance. Overall excess of revenues or excess of expenditures over revenues, $3.3 million, or about a 2.08% of the budget. So what were the drivers for 24, 25 in the general fund? Again, expenditure variance was about 2.7 million. Professional services, we came in over budget by about 837,000. 643,000 of that was IU educational services, which linked back to special education services for students that we needed to purchase through the intermediate unit. And the second item under the 300s, 247,000 for substitutes for professional staff. So we were about 247,000 over budget on that line item. Other purchase services, about $1.5 million. This links back to cyber charter school tuition, which was over budget about $679,000. And that is tied to the number of kids who left the district and went to cyber charter schools. And then subs for non-professional staff, that line item came in $800,000 over budget. And I just want to point out to the subs for the professional service, subs for professional service and subs for the non-professional staff. Substitutes come for many reasons. Some of the reasons are people are out sick, people are out for various reasons, but a lot of the non-professional staff was driven by basically positions that we weren't able to fill internally, or aides and so forth, that are assigned to students' needs. And then those positions that we're not able to fill have to be filled through professional purchase service agreements through outplacement or outsourcing. So that was really what's driving a lot of this, is the positions that are unable to be filled. And because those services are in students' required needs or required in their IEPs, then those services have to be gained from outsourcing. Other supplies, about 465,000. Driven by electricity, was up about 120,000 above what we expected, and tech software about 322,000. Revenue variance, again, total revenue, all sources about 546,000 short. But where we were really short was the local revenue, about $1.3 million. We've talked a lot about earned income tax and the drop off of that line item. That was about $907,000 short of budget. Delinquent real estate taxes, about $370,000 short of budget, and then interest revenue, about $120,000 short of budget. If we wouldn't have had the drastic fall off on the local revenue side, you know, the budget difference wouldn't have been near as large as it ended up being.
For the EIT, those were people, like we were expecting a certain number of people and it turned out to be less? Or are they people who should have paid us and didn't? Or do we not know how to tell it?
I think that really what I have to look at is to compare year over year and what the growth is. And the growth was, like we looked at before, was 4.5%, and it dropped off to less than 2% in 1 year.
Okay.
I think some of it ties back to perhaps people returning to work in the city and no longer paying earned income tax here, but having to pay the local wages tax at the city, and it's all collected by the city. We don't get any of that. It can also be that wage growth slowed down. So it could also be, it could be more unearned income than earned income. More people retired. I mean, there's a lot of things that can impact that. And sure, some could be delinquent, which takes time for those folks for the local earned income tax collector to catch up to that, because that's a process that works back through the state tax returns. That information comes to the local tax collectors after, you know, a year, 18-month delay, and then they go back and they check what you submitted for local earned income tax compared to the state return.
Okay.
And then if it's not, they're not matching up, then they move forward with.
It doesn't sound like that would be much
I
of
don't-
it. It's probably more the first things you listed, I would guess. Okay.
On the expenditure variances, were these variances known when we were planning the current year budget? Or are we now behind the ball already for the current year?
These variances for the year were not known at the time, you know, in January when we were planning the 25-26 budget.
Do we have a snapshot of where we are financially year to date so we can sort of gauge where we are for the first half of this budget season?
Yeah, we will, our plan is to share that with you as we provide the first look at the budget.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Any other questions on this slide? So moving into fund balance, 23-24 fund balance. Fund balance is made up of three different parts: non-spendable, committed, and unassigned fund balance. Total fund balance, 23-24 is about 16.7. The 24-25 will be final with the audit, but where we expect it to be is non-spendable, about 481,000, committed at about 2.7, and unassigned about 10.2. The reduction is due to the loss or the excess of expenditures over revenue for the 24-25 school year. And capital projects funding is about $7 million at the end of the 24-25 year.
So
The
that-
fund balance is about 6.3% of the total general fund budget of 163 million, and it is allowed to be 8%.
So is that where the difference comes, right? We're off revenue and expenses 3.3 million.
Yep,
So that 3.3 is coming out of the,
comes out of fund balance,
the unassigned fund balance that we're allowed to carry up to 8%.
yes.
But we earn revenue off that money, so when we take from it, does it reduces our revenue
Reduces our,
for the next year?
yes,
Okay.
our interest earned.
Understood.
Capital Projects Fund, moving on to that, we have always had a goal here of not borrowing money to maintain school facilities and grounds. We've been committed to properly maintaining facilities. By doing so, we developed a Capital Projects Fund, and then we accumulate money into that fund. Over the years, it's been a transfer of excess revenues over expenditures at the end of the fiscal year. That money is in the projects fund, and most recently with the debt drop-off, we have budgeted for a transfer of those dollars from the debt drop-off over to the capital projects.
How much is the debt drop-off this year?
The debt drop-off this year into next, it's flat. It won't drop for another year after 27, 28 is the next drop. Capital projects funding, you can see here, just year over year, what we've done in this fund. Expenditure-wise, we've spent 3, 4, 3, 5, and in 22, 23, 23, 24, very big years, 13 million and $8.7 million in expenditures out of capital projects funding. It transfers in. These transfers in were excess revenues over expenditures at the end of the fiscal year, and then the capital project and money, what's remaining, carries through to the next year. So for 24, 25.
Wait, can you say that again? The excess transfers from year to year?
Yeah, so, at the end of a fiscal year, after you have expended money and you have transferred in, you end up with an ending balance. That ending balance moves forward to the beginning balance of the next year.
Okay.
So it just works through year after year.
So if we come in under budget, the money really is preserved for, will carry forward to the next year then?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. 24, 25, beginning balance was 5.7. We spent about 4.6 million. Transfers in, this is the first year the debt drop-off transfer in, $6 million. Ending fund balance of about 7 million. For 25, 26, the year we're in right now, so we'll carry forward about $7 million in the capital projects fund. Expenditures this year were about 2.2 million. Those are the projects we did over the summertime. There is a budgeted transfer in the 25, 26 budget of $6.1 million into the capital projects fund, which will leave that at about $11 million. Moving forward into 26, 27, you have about $11 million coming forward. Expenditures, about 5.6 million is what we've budgeted. These are the projects that we just went through SCS last month and this month. This number now is not 5.6 million based on the bids. It's now about 5.4 million. 5.3 million,
Yeah,
roughly?
3.5.
So that's what that number will be. So the question then here for capital projects funding is, in the future, is what does this number become? What does this transfer become? The number that is there now is the debt service drop-off number. And Mr. Ringwald, here it is, 10, 27, 28. Debt drops another $1.5 million roughly. And then 28, 29, it drops another $2.5 million. And then after 28, 29, there's no longer debt in the district. Okay, so as we get into budget planning and the general fund budget, this transfer number will come into play, and we'll have a lot of discussions about what that number is for the 26, 27 budget. So for now, I have it placed there, but that number could change if we change it through our budget process. Okay? So everything is interconnected and works together.
I think, for the most part, we do this fairly well, but if there's any grants that we can get for, I know we had talked about PCCD before and the letters salad that we had from the other one, but, we've had discussions in the district about AC in schools. Trying to pull a grant to fund some of that so we can lessen that number. Maybe we're able to be a little bit more flexible with that and use that towards the budget process.
Your ideas in forecasting, which I know you'll bring up in March, will you be able to show us what it'll look like if we say we don't move over 11 million? What if we move over 8 or 9? Like, what would that look like?
Yeah.
If you can.
Yeah. You mean if we don't transfer over the whole amount?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking at the whole
Yeah,
amount.
I mean, what we don't transfer here, means that there's less money here
Right.
for us to work with.
Right.
So it means we're doing less projects in the summertime. It means maybe we're pushing things out further. We do smaller projects or we break projects up into pieces. We'll be looking at fire alarm systems, and maybe we break that project up into pieces. So, yeah, we will have to, whatever numbers we end up with, we will have to make adjustments for it and adjust accordingly.
And ICS gave us an extended range outlook, right, of like the capital needs improvements over the next 5 years or whatever.
Just to see, like, if this is something
Yeah.
that we could potentially do and what it looks like. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, school finance 101, so required, budgeting is required by state law. It's the requirement in the Pennsylvania School Code for school districts to pass a budget each year for the school district. So there's two pieces to the budget process. There's the revenue side, and then there's the expenditure side of the budget. And when they balance, the budget is considered a balanced budget. And when they don't balance, if expenditures exceed revenues, there has to be a use of fund balance then to balance the budget. Moving forward, so when we look at expenditures, the state requires us to lump all expenditures into these 5 categories. Everything goes into either instruction, support services, non-instructional services, capital outlay, or other financial uses or debt service. Vast majority of our expenditures go into instruction. Roughly 62% of all expenditures fall under instruction. The support services line item are things like guidance counselors, nurses, administration, principals, anything that's not instruction related but is in the schools and is supporting that instructional service falls under support services. Non-instructional Services are things like student activities and their athletics. Capital outlay would only really comes into play whenever we're building something or we're renovating something. And then 5,000 is used for our debt service.
What sort of things fall under instruction?
What's that? I'm sorry.
What sort of, like, what sort of expenses fall under instruction?
Everything in the classroom, so your regular education, your teacher costs, your supply costs, your books, your software, your periodicals, anything that has to do with the classroom. So you would have regular instruction, you would also have special education. So that would be under, regular education is 1,100, special education is 1,200, so we have to break that down. So again, that's everything that's related to classroom and special education, salaries, benefits, supplies, professional services for anything like that. They would all fall under instruction. And then the vocational instruction falls under 1,300. So it would be anything that would be related to the instruction in the classroom at a vocational level. All those salaries, benefits, supplies, all that.
Thank you.
So taking it a step further, once we break everything into these categories, then we have to further break them down into these categories. So you'll see these categories when we look at budget and total and so forth, and we'll break down further within 1,000, the things that we just talked about, and 2,000 of the things that are there and so forth. But then, after we've made that breakdown, then we have to break down all those dollars into these areas, which is what the state calls objects. So your salaries and benefits, so basically your people costs, contracted services, property services, other purchase services, supplies and textbooks, software would go into there also, equipment, interest, dues and fees, 800, and then our debt principal and 900. So again, salaries and benefits, they're making up about 73% of all those expenditures. So we are a very people-driven business, as all, the majority of our costs go into the people that do the teaching and everything else that we do in a school district. So some examples of cost factors that we as a group, you as a school board have control over versus expenditures that are borne upon us by legislation, by the legislature, or some other rules that we really have no control over. And we can try to limit them as much as possible, but we have no control over them. So as a school board, as an administration, we have control over staffing to some extent. Sometimes when it's a special education situation, where there's caseloads involved, we might not have as much control as we would like. Class size, as a school board and administration, we can control the number of kids that are in a classroom. Facilities, we can control or make determinations on how much money we're going to put into facilities for upkeep and so forth. If we're going to build a building, if we're not going to build a building, if we're going to renovate, those types of things. Collective bargaining units, collective bargaining agreements, you have some control over that. You have to come to the table and negotiate in a honest and fair way, but there's nothing that says you have to agree to something. You can negotiate that, and you come to some agreement in the middle, but you have some control over that. And then non-mandated programs. There are certain programs that school districts run that are not mandated, and then the districts have control over what those what of those programs they run and how they run them and how in depth they run them. Things that we, as a school district board and administration, have no control over that are very expensive is First is PSERS rate, the retirement system rate. It's set every year for us in December, and we have to pay 33.9% of every dollar in payroll. We pay an additional 33.9% out in PSERS costs. We get half that back from the state through their share of that, but it is still a substantial expense. Charter school tuition, the state of Pennsylvania allows families to pick their place of education through charter schools, either brick and mortar charter schools or cyber charter schools. So a child can decide, or a family can decide to have their child not attend Penn Ridge, but attend any cyber charter school or brick and mortar charter school, and the district has to pay that tuition fees for that student to attend that school. And that tuition is based on a formula that was developed by the state legislature.
Isn't that formula the same that we pay per student in the district when they choose to attend in person in our classrooms?
I would say that there's a lot of costs involved in that formula that are added in to develop a cost for a charter school student that aren't necessarily student-related costs. Things such as like some building costs and things like that, that a cyber charter school doesn't have, but those costs are added into that formula.
Well, it's a cyber charter versus charter, right? They're two different numbers? Or
They are now
they-
two different numbers.
They are or are not?
They are now. They
Okay.
used to not be. For the first time this year, they are. But there's still a lot of cost in there that, when you look just at educational costs, they're really high compared to what our costs are on average for instructional costs.
Thank you.
Question about the, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think even when Kathy was here, the cost for them doing the Pembridge Cyber School was less than a cyber charter school. So every student we brought back, I feel like was putting maybe 3,000 to 5,000 more in our,
It is a big savings. for us.
yeah.
It was almost like $500,000, I think, is what she presented, that she got back to the
Right.
district by.
Yes, by bringing back, I think 12 students was a lot more, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Like, that kind of
Yeah.
like feeds into my question, and maybe it's more for the student services than it is for finance, but looking at charter school tuition, how often do we, I guess, is my first question, and how often do we do an outreach to all of the students that are attending a charter school and finding out why? Why are they not coming to Penn Ridge? Is there something that we can do with that data to sort of draw them back in?
It's an excellent question. Last summer, I know in the past, there were seminars or a workshop at night to promote the Penn Ridge Cyber Program. Last summer, we got a little more entrenched as far as recruiting and having targeted recruitment efforts to contact families. And I believe the number was how many, Dr. Palmer, that actually returned? Okay.
I want to say
I want to say 15.
About that
Around
range.
15 or so.
12, 13.
And when we engaged the families, and we basically said, get a Penn Ridge diploma, you have access to tutoring here at school, Mr. Gumbar and Company. You can play on the sports teams. There are things that, in my personal opinion, that certain cyber charters may not offer to a Penn Ridge student. Walking graduation, attend a senior prom, or a prom, or any dances, and also the extracurriculars that we offer here. So we think we have, we started and have a good foundation, but there's a lot more work that needs to be done in this space.
Do we also look at the brick and mortar charter school students?
Last summer, I don't believe we really did a deep dive into the.
I don't know, maybe there's not many that go to brick and mortar versus
Focused on
the cyber.
cyber.
Yeah.
Our main focus last summer.
It's a big pickup, yeah.
certainly something we could take.
Yeah, we can certainly take a look at that. Ms. Fair also, she had a list of people like, you know what, we're going to come back and try again, have another conversation. Because there are some people who are, kind of on the fence about it, want to see how things are. So my assumption will be this is something we're going to continue to do.
And we were hopeful that the legislature and the governor's budget, there would be certain caps on cyber charters. And that didn't pan out the way. There was slight reform, and what will that save us this year, Mr. Dahlberg? How much?
About 245,000.
245,000.
I have it on my slide.
Okay.
Hopefully
The coming attraction, but we were hopeful that there would be certain, like a capped amount. And that didn't work out. Now, I know in the governor's budget last week, there was mention of his budget proposal of having more cyber charter reform. And there were some instances throughout the Commonwealth where there were some cyber charters with very, very large fund balances, construction or real estate holdings that make folks scratch their heads. There were some concerns with wellness and attendance in cyber charters, where and I think we want to ensure with our own internal program that we are checking in with our students and taking attendance, staying a live student and making sure that they're okay and engaged. But there's a lot more work, Mr. Trauger, that needs to be done in this case, for sure. And your suggestion of engaging brick and mortar charters is well taken.
To find out why, right? Why are we losing them?
A lot of it could be school choice and for various reasons. Some charter schools offer different things in the arts that we may not be able to compete with. There could just be some certain things, and I know that sometimes the charters are based on political lines, and it's a blue and a red issue. You look into different urban areas, their charter schools are very prevalent in these spaces. So, but you definitely raised some salient points.
If I could just go back,
Sure.
I did find an answer to our question. There is no cap to the 20 terabytes that we are going to have over there at the CCIU rubric infrastructure. In addition to those 20 terabytes, we also get a matching cloud-based host by CCIU.
Sounds like a challenge.
I wasn't sure what that had to do with cyber charters.
Hot off the press.
Checking it off the box. Done.
You wanted to get it done.
I'm kidding.
I will say that studies have shown that like in urban areas, charter schools do tend to help elevate even the public education system. In rural areas, it's the opposite. They tend to pull from the public education, and it tends to do a lot of damage.
It doesn't sound like the existence of charter schools is the problem. It's the cost associated with them.
Yeah.
It's that the taxpayer is paying more money and getting less for what they're paying. And meanwhile, I believe it was Mr. Dahlberg mentioned cyber charters specifically. We taxpayers are paying for facility fees when it's a cyber charter. They don't have facilities to maintain. So why are we spending that money? So I don't think that the conversation is, whether charter schools should or shouldn't exist. It's should they cost as much as they're costing when it costs less for students to come here and receive, well, according to the presentation that we saw over the summer, a better, more successful education.
Maybe we'll let Mr. Doriso give you a crash session on the PD 363 for charter school. Charter school. Tuition rate.
I would take it up.
Not tonight.
Not tonight. Yeah. There is a.
It's a very daunting spreadsheet that,
It is. It's not for the weak of mind, right?
correct.
Angela, yeah. All right, so geographic location, basically the cost of where you live. I know that, coming from the central part of the state years ago, costs in southeast Pennsylvania are much more than they were where I came from. And I know the costs where I came from were much more than where the costs were in the northern tier of Pennsylvania. So depending on where you live has a lot to do with how much you pay for things. And then mandated programs, special education, and English language development. So again, mandated by state law, we have to provide those services. So, moving on, finances. So when we talk about revenue, the revenue side, we have 3 areas: local, state, and federal revenue. And what if we need more money as a school district? We really have 2 options. One is the Act 1 tax index limit, which allows the school board to raise taxes each year by a certain amount. And your second option is to borrow money. Most of the time, that's reserved for construction projects. But there are times when school districts have to go out and borrow money just to operate, like when there is not a state budget till November, and school districts run out of cash. They go and they get a tax revenue anticipation note, and they're paying interest costs in order to stay solvent. So that does happen in the state whenever when these big prolonged budget delays occur. So revenue factors, just some examples, things that impact your tax parcels, your zoning, your assessed values, your trends in real estate, your growth in real estate, or the other way, things aren't growing, tax assessment appeals, you're losing tax assessment. So that can go either way. Earned income tax is your other main way of generating cash in the school district. We really don't have any control over the rate. That's set by law, but it is usually a tax that grows on a year-to-year basis. The question mark is how much is it going to grow from year to year and what's impacting it. Each of these have practical and legal limits on the rates that we can tax at. Other factors, state subsidies, what's going to end up year to year being passed by the legislature for funding of public education. It's a crapshoot every year. Numbers come out in the governor's budget in February, and then we wait for months and nothing happens until there's a flurry of activity sometime in early July, and numbers finally come out after you're statutorily required to have a budget in place, or we wait till November to find out what those numbers will be. And then we also have, fund balance, which comes into play, which is that savings account like we have at home that takes care of those rainy day situations where things don't go right, or funding doesn't come in for 5 months, and we sit and wait. So these are the district's funds. I think I shared this information with you before. The general fund is the main operating fund of the school district. The general fund is what the budget will be for that we work on and develop together and hopefully pass in May and pass for the final time in June. We also have the healthcare fund. That is for the claims and the premiums for healthcare. The capital projects fund, which we talked about earlier, and how we go about funding the capital projects fund. We have the food service fund, which operates on its own. It is self-supporting. The student activity fund, where we act in a fiduciary role, where we hold the students' money, and then they work together in their clubs to determine how their money is raised and spent. Debt service fund, again, just a fund used to pass the debt service payments through. Moving on, the fund balance. So the fund balance is a governmental accounting term, basically measures the net financial assets, adequate balance to cover the district's emergencies. It's not a recurring source of revenue. It's used for one-time investments or conservative budget balancing. So basically, once fund balance is used, it's gone. And so a fund balance equation is basically beginning fund balance plus revenues minus expenditures, and that equals the ending year fund balance. So if the revenues exceed the expenditures, that number is going to grow. Vice versa, if expenditures exceed revenues, that ending fund balance is going to decrease. Fund balance has 5 different levels on it. At the top is the most constrained, non-spendable fund balance, and we have some of this. It's for inventories and prepaid items. So it's an accounting function, and a number is put to that each year based on our inventory prepaid items. Then moves to restricted, then committed, and then assigned, and then unassigned, which is the no constraint at all, and it has an 8% limit, and it is controlled by the board. So there's no restrictions on unassigned, except for the fact that it has that limit to it. The board can put monies away and assign it into an assigned fund balance or a committed fund balance as it wishes, and there's no limit for that. We have some committed fund balance and some unassigned fund balance, along with our non-spend.
I have what might be a dumb question, but it's getting later and later.
No dumb question.
What does it mean when it's an 8% limit?
So the unassigned fund balance can be 8% of your total general fund budget amount. So our general fund budget is
Thank you.
163 million. We got 8%. Not a
Thank
dumb
you.
question. Very good question.
What do most districts usually keep? What percentage?
Most districts try to keep that 8%. A lot of the, I would say, the wealthier districts have that plus a whole lot more in committed and assigned fund balances. And then there are poorer districts that struggle to get anywhere close to 8%. It is all over the place depending on the wealth of your school district.
Are we at the 8% limit?
We are at 6.4 right now because of our loss last year. We were at 8% last year. Prior to. These are the fund balance limits. The limits came into play in 2003, and they put percentage limits based on your total budgeted expenditures. So if you have less than a $12 million budget, you can have 12%, and then it comes down to 8%. So in most school districts in the state of Pennsylvania have more than a $19 million budget. So most districts are at 8%.
Can you explain the assigned fund balance again? I'm not sure I understand that correctly. Is it, there can be money can be put into the assigned bucket and just sitting there?
Okay, yeah. So let's throw a hypothetical out. You, as a school board, want to build an eighth elementary school, right? At the end of a fiscal year, we have an excess of $10 million, say. You can take that $10 million and assign it in fund balance for the future construction of XYZ elementary schools, right?
And then can we decide to not do that project and move that money back into?
Yes, by action of the board. Actually, management can actually assign. Committed is, and the board can assign formal action to do committed. So it's a little bit more constrained. Formal action only by the school board. So the administration couldn't commit fund balance. We could assign fund balance, but board can commit fund balance. So you have this level of hierarchy of how restricted the use of the money.
I guess through the budget presentations, we'll see what these dollar amounts add up to.
And that, yes, but let me go back here. Here they are. We have 481,000 of non-spendable, which is the value of our inventories. Thank you. We have 2.7 million in committed, and we have $10 million in unassigned for $13.4 million.
And that capital projects, that 7.1, is not included in that 13.4.
Correct. That is
And that-
capital projects fund committee fund balance. This is general fund committee fund
And the
balance.
unassigned 10.2 million is just sitting there.
Yes.
Okay.
That, the 10.2 is the 6.02%, because it's unassigned.
Correct, 6.3%.
Or 6.
Yep.
Oh, right.
So I think the question
I-
was
I-
earlier,
okay.
the 2.7
Yes,
million.
that, yeah, thank you
in
for clarifying my
the Peters
question.
fund could be transferred to unassigned fund balance. That would bring that closer to the 8%.
What we have been doing each year,
Or,
Important point.
and this, I keep it wrong, but I'm sorry, guys. This committed number, so at the end of each fiscal year, so at the June board meeting, what we do is we have the board pass a resolution that will transfer from the committed fund balance to unassigned fund balance, the amount needed to maintain, the 8%, total.
right, but we could say 2.7 million, transfer that back to the general funds for next year.
It is in the general fund. It's general fund fund balance.
In the unassigned, I think he means.
Yes.
Well, no, the unassigned is the 8%. That's like the rainy day fund, right?
Yeah.
So what is that 2.7 million committed to?
It was committed years ago for increasing Peter's cost. So,
Which is the
what we
33.
have done is we have built the increase in Peter's costs into our budget each year. So what we've been doing is we've been reducing this amount and moving it down to unassigned each year. But, and this is we have question, final question for our auditor, will our motion that we passed in June allow us to bring this total 2.7 down here at the end of 24-25, or do we need another board motion to do that? Was our board motion, does our board motion cover that? So there's a question about, so but the goal is to basically take this 2.7 million and put it down in the unassigned, to bring that back to close to 8%.
And that will put us close to 13 million in unassigned fund balance.
That we can decide whatever we want.
Right.
Correct.
That's correct.
Yep. Okay.
That's correct. You're correct.
And again, I guess this will be part of different options that will be
Yes.
presented to us, presented to the public.
Yes.
Thank you.
But this is your capital project.
Yeah. Understand.
Yep. Any other questions on that? Thank you for the follow-up question. Did that help?
Yeah, it did, yeah, thank you.
Good, thank you. Okay, moving on, so when we talk about Act One, so for 25-26, and that should say 26-27, my apology. The Act One base index for 26-27 is 3.5%, for 25-26 is 4%. The allowable tax, Act One tax increase is 3.5. Estimated additional revenue of about 3.2 million, and that will be based on what our assessed values come back at. And we get those reports every 2 months. of salary, miscellaneous folks, we build in 2.5, because generally we follow suit with the administration. Teacher's contract is about 2.65% of increase, about $1 million for wages, about $2 million total. Support contract is about 3.6%, about $500,000, a little less than $500,000 wages, $647,000 total in cost. So those are the budget assumptions as far as salaries that we're working from to build our personnel budget. The PSERS rate, talked about this a little bit earlier, but this is a snapshot of the history of the PSERS rate. Historically, the PSERS rate on average has run about 11% over time, from back in the 50s up to the early 2000s, and then the rocket went off, and the PSERS rate jumped from somewhere in the 5 to 6% rate all the way up to 34%. Next year it'll be 33.59%. It was its high as 35.26 and started to come back down. We'll be, like I said, 33.59, and then the next 8 years or so it is projected to go up to about 37.48% before it starts to drop off. What they've been giving us each year now is about 8 years. This is from a time period, a report they gave us quite a while ago. Recently, like I said, about 8 years, and this keeps just, this, my guess is this stock next year will be up here. And because it just keeps climbing.
Yeah, one of the causations here is, in the early 2000s, the multiplier changed. So there's a formula used when someone retires, a public school employee retires. So it's their number of years, and the multiplier used to be 2.0. It changed. Do you remember, Mr. Daubert, what year that changed?
2000.
Around 2000. The multiplier changed to 2.5. So that's a significant. So if I worked 30 years in the public school system and I retired in 1995, I would be 30 years times 2, which would give me 60% of my highest 3 years. In the new scenario, if I worked 30 years, 2.5 times 30 would be 75%. So imagine the aggregate of all these employees. So you have rising pension costs here, and I believe the market meltdown in 2008 had a lot to do with this as well. So this is one of the reasons why you see this.
Yeah, they changed the rate, and there was a market crash in here.
What was making it go down before then, though? Like, were they underfunding?
Here,
Yes.
Well,
Just from like 1988 down to,
what was that the
2000.
dot-com era when this,
There was, the state actually lowered the contribution rates.
yeah, that's why'd they
but
lower
the
them?
fund itself was.
They felt the fund was getting so high that they could reduce the contribution rates for a time, even though the actuarials were telling them don't do that at the time. It was clearly a mistake in hindsight, so we're making up those differences now. So the contribution rates have increased 7.5% that employees pay into PSERS. So there's been a lot of changes in that time.
they also
There's some
changed
catch-up.
They also changed their smoothing method and deferred their increases for a longer period of time. And which resulted in it eventually just skyrocket. And we did have a market crash in here around 08 and so forth, and then it just took off. At one point, we're going down the wrong road, but at one point, the pension fund was $36 billion short. They've recovered, some. They're not. It's still a massive billions of dollars short, but it's, but they're not as bad as it was.
So, and PSERS is like a guaranteed amount that person gets. It's not market
Defined
dependent.
benefit.
Yeah, like, it doesn't matter what's.
Depends on who you are now.
Depends on who you are, when you started, what benefits you have. But there are folks that are defined benefit. Now there are folks on defined contribution.
Yeah.
I don't believe there's any more new defined benefit folks. Everybody, a portion of it's defined. But again, this is decisions by folks in Harrisburg, governors and legislators, that made decisions way back here, right? And what happened was, they changed the rate, the multiplier for the legislators,
Which is 3.
which is 3, and they carried the state employees with it. And they then in turn carried Peters with it. So school people got a great benefit. That was really what they were doing was increasing the pension for the legislators. But their great deal is costing school districts a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that decision was made 30 years ago to do that.
You can reach out to Governor Ridge if you.
Moving on.
Start shaking down all the retired governors.
Moving on, I promised you a look at what came out of the 26-27 governor's budget proposal. So the first column I have basic ed, special ed, and regular learning inadequacy grant. So this was 25. This is 25-26. Back in June of 2025, we were slated at about 18.6 million, 18.663. Then in November, the governor's budget finally passed. We came out at 18.641, about $20,000 less than what the governor told us we were going to get. So here we are in February 2026. Governor's budget calls for us to get about 95,000 more in basic ed, which is 0.7%, about 35,000 more, 38,000 more in special ed, another less than 1% increase, and another 87,000 added to our Ready to Learn through the adequacy formula piece, and that is about 11% increase. So total, about $223,000 increase, or 1.2% increase in state funding for Pembridge for next year in the governor's budget. Just looking at some cost drivers, things we are dealing with as a school district. The cost of charter school costs over a 5-6 year period, and what has happened. So in 25-26, brick and mortar about $619,000, cyber about $2.2 million, total about $2.8 million. Those are our budget numbers. In 24-25, our actual costs were about $2.9 million. Year before, about $2.4 million, 2.5, 2.6, and 3 million. When you look at it, what's driven by is the enrollment plus the rates. So every year as our budget goes up, the rates go up. This is based on a formula on our budget. So back here, when we had 175 kids in 2021 enrolled in cyber charter schools or charter schools, it was about $3 million. And here where we had about 159 kids, it was really close to the same amount of money. So it's the rate, shows you how much the rate has went up for those kids. So the Angela pointed, talked about the change in regulations that came out of the 25-26 budget. That saved us about $216,000 when we compared the two, based on the changes in the cyber charter school rate. If they would have put the cap on cyber tuition, which was talked about a lot during the budget process last year at the state level, the $8,000 cap would have saved us about $1 million. And that would have been real savings that would have continued on. This is just this $215,000 give more money.
Why is there such a huge disparity between brick and mortar and cyber charter schools? You would, I would think that brick and mortar would be more costly because you have to have facilities, you have to have facility staff, you have to have all sorts of other things, whereas cyber is so much more, and they don't have those expenses.
These numbers are so much more for cyber because there's a much larger percentage of this enrollment number that's in cyber compared to brick and mortar.
You can't ask intelligent questions about cyber. But just for what it's worth, that 24-25 number is averaging $18,359 a student. I mean, I know that's not apples to apples because you're talking special ed and general ed, but I mean, that's an average of $18,000 a student to educate. That's a lot of money. And I think with the law was written for brick and mortar, and then cyber charter kind of jumped in, and they've not really made many changes to it, and that's why you see that spike. I mean, too often I think kids go to cyber schools with no IEPs and suddenly have IEPs, and now we're paying $30,000 a student, or 32 or whatever it was.
And it's the same rate for special education, no matter what the
Yep.
issue is, right? Like,
Correct.
Speech,
that's another place I think that's difficult, because it could be a less serious need, but it's charged the same as this student who has a lot of needs.
Yeah, that rate's based on our total cost of special ed per mark, and it includes our most severe kids. And then it's divided out, total cost by our ADMs and special ed, to come out to an amount, right? So you're right, there could be a kid in cyber charter school that needs speech for an hour a week, and they're getting that same rate that
Yeah.
a kid would get that has severe disability. Another cost driver in last year's budget and so forth, substitute costs. So just a little bit of history here. Substitute costs have been growing over the last number of years. So in 24-25, these are our actual costs, professional staff, 5.6, which actually dropped from the year before. Support staff, 1.5, which is up half a million from the year before. So 3.1 million total, 24-25 compared to 2.9 the year before, 2.1 the year before that. So again, this number goes back to those positions that we are not able to fill, TAs, PCAs, and so forth, in some cases nursing positions, and that we have to use outsourced labor to make sure that we have people in place to service those kids' needs. So this is a real driver. This is one that we're really focusing on, trying to get those positions filled internally, and reorganizing staff to make sure that we are servicing the kids with the staff we have, the most severe needs. And then the professional staff line, I know said it dropped. It was actually a good sign from 3.4 to 4.5. Again, there's not too much an outsourcing problem here, but we are looking at ways to reduce this further through the use of, or perhaps clawing back some of the building-based subs, not having as many of those in the buildings at all times, and looking at doing some things differently that we had used subs for before. So all things that we're working on to try to reduce costs moving forward. Special education costs, another one that continues to grow. Here again, 24 to 25 came in at 31.8 million. 25 to 26 budget is 30 and a half. So a big year in 24, 25. And we look at, pointed that out as one of our issues for we're down 1,000 students overall in the district, or more than 1,000 students from 17, 18 to 25, 26, but yet our special ed population has grown by over 200 students at the same time. It would make sense that if our total population was dropping and it dropped by 1,000 students, that this number would be going down, not up. So another area that Dr. Berry has ordered our administrative staff to look into as to why this is happening.
And with this, with special education, sometimes you'll see the classroom enrollment is small, but we have to assign teachers to manage caseloads for IEPs. So you may say, well, why do you have so many special education teachers when the population is relatively low? It's because of the caseloads. No, I'm finished.
I didn't mean to cut you off. But, I mean, it is definitely a cost driver. If you just take a look, over a 7-year period, we're up $10 million in special education funds. It's a cost driver. It's something we have to be, and we know that, but we have to constantly be paying attention.
Do we know how much of our kind of long-term substitute staff is for special education? Was that in the board? In the previous slide when we were talking about substitute cost?
Okay, this one?
Yeah, so when for, are we struggling to find special education instructors, both professional and support staff? Is that
It's primarily,
what that is?
it's primarily in the support staff,
Okay,
TAs, PCAs.
okay.
And so when we've,
BCBAs.
BCBAs, RBTs, we have to reach out to services, and when you have to go and outsource, the costs are significant.
Okay,
Nurses,
right.
and a lot of times nurses are assigned to.
Yeah, a child that would need a nurse all day, we can't, we're going to have to find someone for them.
We found when we went back and looked, a lot of this increase from year to year, a lot of that was nurses and aides, and then this was a lot of aides, from year to year, having to use outsourcing for a lot of PCAs and PAs.
What are we double paying for most of them, or are they subs because we can't find the permanent position?
This line here,
Yeah,
it's because we couldn't find nurses and we couldn't find TAs and PCAs. So to not double pay, but paying more than we would have paid an employee because we're paying a contractor, paying all that overhead.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's important that we took the time tonight. You put together a great presentation. You know, as a newbie up here, this was helpful to go over, and I hope that public is watching and also has learned.
I'm sorry.
I hope that the public
Oh.
has watched and is also learning some new information.
And I offer a sit down to any board member, especially board members, anytime you need or would like, just have question and answers, whatever I can do. Basically.
All right, and the next Finance Committee meeting is scheduled for March 9th.